And it's very closely related for me to paganism as well as Freemasonry. And the man who started the ancient order of the Druids did do so based off of the principles of Freemasonry, so that's a tie there. Um, so, you know, because of that ritual that Diana was taking part in, it was done intentionally 7 days, the first 7 days of July, and Arizona Wilder was present. That's how she was able to kind of give this story. Because, like I said, she was the mother goddess. I believe there's only 3 mother goddesses that exist on the earth at one time. I believe that's what she said. Don't quote me, y'all. Please do your own research. Um, so she was a very prominent figure, and it takes a lot of grooming to get you to that point. Arizona Wilder, I'm going to get to the ritual, but I want to give you as much background information if you are not familiar with her. Arizona Wilder, when I look into her soul, I don't see, obviously, a terrestrial being that is indigenous to this land. She's not nine ether. And that for me is indicative that you have the genetic sequence of this terrain. But I see something else in her when I look into her soul. Like I said, into her eyes, I definitely see outer terrain, outer lands, whether that's outside of the ice wall or if there are other celestial bodies that exist and we're able to kind of interdimensionally travel. That is what I see in her, though. And it really is interesting because if she really is a Pleiadian or maybe an extraterrestrial being I'm unfamiliar with, it makes sense why the reptilians utilize them. I'm going to refer to them as draconians interchangeably, but it would make sense why they utilize the Pleiadians. They're typically blonde hair, blue-eyed. I know that these are similar characteristics of the tall whites, but Arizona Wilder did state that, blue eyes are not native to this land, and indigenous people of this land can recognize that. We understand that whether you consciously do or subconsciously do. But that's the background on Arizona Wilder. So she's very psychic. She's highly intuitive. She's able to tap into multiple realms. She's important in SRAs or SRs. I keep saying SRAs. I'm sorry. The SRA is the abuse. SR is the actual ritual. So she's important in the rituals because she bridges that gap between worlds. And that's something also that the article I was reading on the Druids and their oak tree ceremony is that the oak tree serves the same purpose. It bridges the gap between worlds. So that would make sense why they intentionally do their rituals, including that. And there was an oak tree on the property in which this ritual with Princess Diana occurred. Excuse me. So it was explained to her by the Queen Mother. Queen Elizabeth was not present. I believe it was just the Queen Mother, Prince Philip, a few others. I'm not very versed in royal families, but I will leave each of their pictures and for you all to have a visual. And her grandmother, namely, that's what I found most interesting. Lady Fermoy was her grandmother, and she administered her a drug in which her friend that I was mentioning, I believe I mentioned, her name was Christine, the one that Diana would confide into, stated that the royal family would keep her suppressed under drugs, that Diana was also potentially a Pleiadian hybrid as well. Obviously, she had draconian blood in her, but she had blonde hair, she had blue eyes, made them more susceptible to the programming received by the Draconians. And I just think that's very interesting to note. I've heard a long time ago, not that long ago, but I did hear a while ago that the Dracos will follow the Pleiadians wherever they go. See, we were inhabitants of this land before they came and hijacked our land. They came and hijacked our land because the Dracos were not the first visitors. It was the Pleiadians. The Pleiadians were escaping from their home planet to seek refuge from the Dracos. The Dracos found them, and we became casualties to their warfare. And that's why it's a highly spiritual battle we are facing. We are not just facing the battles of flesh, we are facing the battles of spiritual, because these are highly spiritually advanced beings, just as we are in our natural state, but we've been hijacked, right? So, with Princess Diana and her ritual, Arizona Wilder observed that the Queen Mother was stating she was simply a vessel to house the heir to throne. That this ceremony takes place for every female of the 13 royal bloodlines that will be seen publicly with a reptilian. So if it was Prince Philip that she was married to and not Prince Charles, whichever one it was, that lets you know right there that they are reptilians. Reptilians have the ability to shapeshift, and that's been pretty normalized in our society. If not in our society, I would definitely say in the spiritual or conspiracy theory communities. Shapeshifting, it's really just advanced technology, the understanding of advanced technology. We all have access to these abilities, but like I said, we have been compromised, so we're not able to tap into our true nature when it comes to a lot of stuff. But it's just manipulating light, distorting light, the ability to do that. When you actually look at these people truthfully and look at them not for the propaganda that you've been indoctrinated to see them as, but actually look at them for what they are, you can see through it. Everything's smoke and mirrors.
They never lied.
As Shakespeare says, the world is a stage. I do believe he was associated with the Brotherhood. I'm not sure if he was genetically associated as well, but I do know that I would put my bet on the fact that he was a part of the Freemasonic order, because we still learn about him to his day in his work, and they teach him in our indoctrination centers, and they're not going to do that for just anybody. So that being said, Diana had went through a ritual at that time, and where she actually were able to see her husband to be, her public husband to be, because that's not, they had no true romantic involvement outside of the public eye. Obviously, this is speculation. Who knows what went on behind closed doors? But in regards to this article, she was just used for her vessel. And she was a subject of multiple personality disorder due to the programming she received. But as I said, Arizona Wilder states that blonde hair, blue-eyed genetics is what they're chasing. That is their master race. That's why you can see that Draco law being applied in the times of the Nazis and the Holocaust, because that is what they're after. That is their star race. I would even venture to say that Dracos may have had a hand in creating this race, because they are so firmly attached to it and studying it and manipulating it, But nonetheless, at that time, it was very symbolic. Everything's symbolic. I started this off talking about Egyptology, and it circles back.
Once again set out on the trail. She eventually traced 13 of the 14 separate parts, all but the penis, which had been swallowed by a fish.
I wanted to come in and say that Princess Diana actually died at the 13th pillar in this cave. I'm sorry, in this tunnel in France. And she died on August 31st with, um, when you invert it, obviously 31 also equals 13. So that's why I was saying it's completely symbolic, her initiation into the family all the way until her departure from the family. The whole thing was symbolic, representative of their ancient practices and the Egyptology that they uh, still worship to this day. Um, they used the phallic of Osiris, I believe, um, to impregnate Diana at that ritual ceremony, because you can't physically, I'm presuming, impregnate when you are of a different race, species. I don't know how that goes, but they used a golden phallic, okay, um, to impregnate her, and it was embedded. It was described to be the same shape and size of a draconian, um, and it had spikes on it, so she would bleed once it was entered, right? And they do that, like I said, for all the females of the 13 royal bloodlines that are going to be seen publicly with their kind. And she saw them shapeshift and she was terrified, but it was stated that she didn't say anything. And I'm sure that is terrifying, but she was warned not to speak about it, because if she did, there's eyes everywhere, there's ears everywhere, they would know, and no one would believe her. Who would believe that the great queen mother, the nation's grandmother, is not even human? When you look at these women, you see them for what they are, what you've been programmed to see, frail old ladies. But it's actually described that when they shapeshift, they actually grow in height, they change in color, they kind of form grooves along their skin. It's inhuman. They have tails that sway with their moods. You understand what I'm saying? Like if they're agitated, you can see it in their tail movement. They have a face that is protruding outward like a beak. It was described by Arizona that the Queen Elizabeth, the one recently deceased, right? Her eyes were particularly very scary when she shapeshifted. And like I said, when I say I look into people's soul and I see their souls, although everyone doesn't have one, and that's a conversation for a different day, when I'm looking into your vessel is what I'm saying. These are the entryways to your vessel. You can't hide your eyes, and that's why a lot of you have to pay attention to people that are always hiding their eyes. What are you hiding? But I see it in them. It's really easy to see when you form the ability to see it, when you train yourself to see these things and see these people for what they really are, not people the way you would think of it. They're disagreeable in nature, they're destructive in nature, they're not like us. Nine ether beings, they're not like us at all. Energetically, we don't have the same makeup at all. And they can't hide their true nature. You know what I'm saying? Arizona, not at this ritual, but like I said, there's been plenty of rituals that she's attended in her duration of the Queen Mother position she held. in which she saw a lot of prominent figures, like I stated, in these ways. And many members of the royal family are not human. She was stating that how she saw Queen Elizabeth losing her control, when they sense blood. They portray it like, if you've ever watched Vampire Diaries, vampires don't look like how we've been taught to believe that they look, with the fangs and the pale skin. I mean, pale skin, sure. And I'm not trying to be funny. I'm being dead for real. You know what I'm saying? But they're not as Hollywood and animated as they've been portrayed to be. These vampires are really otherworldly for the most part. And you have some hybrid politicians, if you want to go local, you have those where, they're pawns for the hidden hand. They're practicing their religion as well. It's the same religion, same practices. You know what I'm saying? But like I was saying, they lose their shape. They lose their ability to contain their form, and they shapeshift during these rituals. And she was described as kind of not performing the ritual as she was supposed to as the queen. She didn't maintain her form, and she didn't even cut. It's kind of graphic, but there's a certain way that the rituals are supposed to be done with the royal families and the 13 bloodlines all together, I'm sure. But she didn't go per the protocol, and she just lost her control, and she just started just devouring the sacrifice, I guess you would say, whatever was being sacrificed, the being that was being sacrificed.
I don't know whether you would like to just do a little bit.
I think I might just put a knife in it.
I think that's a really good idea.
See if it works. Oh yes, it goes in beautifully.
Beautifully.
Somebody else can
Finish it off.
do the rest of it.
And she would state that, sometimes at these rituals, Arizona would state that at these rituals sometimes there would be a lot of prominent figures. All of them didn't shapeshift. She wouldn't see all of them shapeshift. But she always noted how the royal family didn't care who saw them shapeshift, because they were who they were, and they stood firm in who they were, And I think that's very compelling, because when you look at a lot of ancient texts, reptilians, dragons, all of that stuff is widely publicized. I believe that they used to show their true form, but things have changed, and they would rather present themselves, the ones that do present themselves to the world would rather do so in human form to be more accepted. And I'm pretty much going to wrap the video up here. But it's so much, y'all. It's so much I read, and I'd love to share. Like I said, I hate that the original video isn't working well with my computer. But at least I can still put this out there despite the quality. I hope y'all look past the quality and actually listen to the message, because that's what's actually, important. And if y'all are interested in it, I definitely will film a part 2 to it if it, gets good response. And let me know what y'all think, What's y'all thoughts on the royal family, the UK? I do want to say that the UK consists of a few countries. You got Wales, you got England, of course, you got Scotland. Look at the flags. You see the dragons on the flag. I'm not sure if Ireland is a part of it. Might be. I'm not sure. These places have cavern systems. And this is what the royal family had dominion over, alongside other commonwealths of this area. They have cavern systems. These caves lead somewhere, and arguably to the inner earth. I heard a while ago that a lot of intelligent life would not live on the surface of a planet. A lot of intelligent life will live within the planet. So you just got to think about these types of things, y'all. The world is so much more mystery to the world than the movies they could ever put out. It's mystery and reality more so than Hollywood or Bollywood or Nollywood could ever create. You understand what I'm saying? Life is mysterious, but it's up to you to find mystery in it. So, yeah, y'all stay safe out there and let me know, like I said, if y'all want a part 2.